Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into one of the most transformative and, let's be real, one of the most confusing technologies out there, cryptocurrency. But this isn't just about some new digital money. Nope. It's about a fundamental shift in how we think about money itself, and more importantly, who gets to control it. So let me just start with this one question. Think about it. Our entire lives, we've handed our money over to banks to hold and trusted governments to print it. It's just how it works. But what if there was another way? What if you could build an entire financial system that didn't rely on trusting those institutions, but instead relied on pure, cold, hard math and code? That's the wild idea right at the heart of this whole thing. Now, to really get where this idea came from, we got to rewind the clock to 2008. The global financial crisis hit, and it sent absolute shockwaves around the world. Suddenly, it became painfully clear just how fragile and unaccountable the traditional banking system really was. For so many people, it was this huge wake-up call. The system we all counted on, yeah, it was way more vulnerable than we ever imagined. And that crisis, it created the perfect storm for a brand new, radical idea to take hold. Look, Bitcoin didn't just pop up out of nowhere. The dream of a secure, private digital cash actually goes back decades. You had brilliant cryptographers playing with the idea way back in the 80s and 90s, but they all slammed into the same brick wall, what's called the double spending problem. I mean, if your money is just a digital file, what's stopping you from just copy-pasting it and spending it over and over again? That was the puzzle no one could solve. Until 2008, when a mysterious figure, or maybe a group, known only as Satoshi Nakamoto, finally cracked it. And get this. When the Bitcoin network officially went live, this exact newspaper headline was embedded forever in the code of the very first block of transactions, what they call the Genesis block. Now, this was not just some random piece of trivia. It was a timestamp, it was a mission statement, it was basically a declaration of independence from the very system that it was built to challenge. So how does this whole thing actually work under the hood? Well, the real magic behind cryptocurrency isn't the coin itself. It's the engine that powers it, the blockchain. And the best way to think about it isn't as some secret book locked in a bank vault, but as a shared public notebook that's open for the entire world to see. The key word here, the most important word, is decentralized. See, instead of one company or one person owning the ledger, it's copied and spread out across a global network of thousands and thousands of computers. That means no single person can change it, and no single government can just shut it down. This distribution of power is what makes it so revolutionary. Okay, let's just walk through it real quick. Let's say Alice wants to send 1 Bitcoin to Bob. That transaction gets bundled up with a bunch of others into a block. But before that block can be added to the ledger, it has to be verified. This is where miners come in. They use incredibly powerful computers to basically compete in a race to solve a super complex math puzzle. Think of it like a global lottery where you have to do a ton of work just to buy a ticket. The first miner to solve the puzzle gets to validate the block, and as a reward, they get some brand new Bitcoin. That whole process is what secures the network. And once that block is verified, it's locked and chained to the one before it, creating this permanent, unbreakable chain of history. So what does all that tech give us? Well, it boils down to 4 really important features. First, immutability. Once a transaction is on the blockchain, it's there forever. It can't be changed. Second, transparency. Anyone can look at the ledger. The names are pseudonymous, but the transactions are public. Third, decentralization. No one is in charge. And all of this creates a trustless system. You don't have to trust a bank. You just have to trust that the code will do exactly what it says it's going to do. You know, for a long time, when people said crypto, they really just meant Bitcoin. But the story absolutely does not end there. The underlying technology started to evolve, moving way beyond just being a peer-to-peer cash system and into something much, much bigger. This idea of programmable money, of a decentralized world's computer. A huge part of that evolution was figuring out better ways for the network to agree on what's true. So we talked about Bitcoin's proof of work. It's incredibly secure, but boy, does it use a lot of energy. So a new system came along, proof of stake. Now, instead of miners burning electricity to compete, validators are chosen to create new blocks based on how much of the currency they're willing to stake or lock up as collateral. It's kind of like putting down a security deposit. If you play by the rules, you get a reward. If you try to cheat, you lose your stake. It's way more energy efficient, and it's the system that major players like Ethereum use today. And speaking of Ethereum, this was the next giant leap forward. When it launched in 2015, Ethereum wasn't just trying to be another digital coin. It was a platform. And it introduced the world to this mind-blowing new concept called smart contracts, which just completely changed the game. So what on earth is a smart contract? Well, the easiest way to think about it is like a super smart digital vending machine. You put in $1, that's the condition, and the machine automatically spits out a soda, that's the outcome. You don't need a cashier. A smart contract does the exact same thing. It's an agreement written in code that automatically runs when the right conditions are met, all without needing a lawyer or banker or any other kind of middleman. This one idea, the code can automatically enforce an agreement, just completely unlocked a tidal wave of innovation. It became the fundamental building block for an entirely new digital economy, with two main things you've almost definitely heard of: DeFi and NFTs. DeFi, which is short for decentralized finance, is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's this whole ecosystem of financial tools built on the blockchain. Using smart contracts, people can borrow, lend, and trade directly with each other peer-to-peer with no bank sitting in the middle taking a cut. I mean, you have platforms like Uniswap that let you swap thousands of different tokens instantly without ever creating an account or trusting a company with your money. It's like a parallel financial system that's run entirely by code. And then you have the other huge innovation, the NFT, or non-fungible token. This takes the blockchain's power of verification and applies it to the idea of ownership. An NFT is basically a digital deed. It's a unique, unforgeable certificate that lives on the blockchain and proves, without a doubt, that you own a specific thing, whether that's a piece of digital art, a song, or even a ticket to a concert. Now, to really get why this is such a big deal, you gotta understand the difference between fungible and non-fungible. Sounds technical, but it's simple. A dollar bill is fungible. My dollar is worth exactly the same as your dollar. We can trade them, no problem. Same with a Bitcoin. But a painting like the Mona Lisa is non-fungible. It's a one-of-a-kind. An NFT basically does that for digital stuff, creating true, verifiable digital scarcity for the first time. So look, this new frontier is, well, it's a bit of a wild west. It is filled with incredible promise for a more open and accessible financial world, but the reality is that this space is also absolutely packed with risk. We're talking extreme price swings, devastating hacks and bugs in the code, and a level of complexity that can be really overwhelming for anyone just starting out in what is still a largely unregulated landscape. Which brings us to the ultimate question, right? Is all of this the foundation for a new, decentralized internet, a truly global financial system? Or is it a massive speculative bubble, just fueled by hype and destined to pop? The honest truth is, nobody knows. The story is still being written, and the next chapter is truly anyone's guess. Thanks for joining me.